Hello, my presentation is on meningitis. We can think of meningitis as the swelling of the protective membranes that cover our brain and spinal cord. This swelling can cause severe headaches and stiffness in the neck. Now, for this presentation, I will focus on bacterial meningitis because it is the most common type of meningitis infection as well as the most infectious. The other types, parasitic meningitis and fungal meningitis, are also fatal, but they are incredibly rare in comparison and non-infectious. Meningitis is a life-threatening disease and it can kill you in hours, and this is part of the reason why it's such a worrying problem. And in the US, from 2003 to 2007, there were 4,100 cases and 500 deaths each year on average. Bacterial meningitis is caused mostly by H. influenzae, S. pneumoniae, and N. meningitis. These bacteria actually often live in our bodies, but it's only when they enter our blood and then our brain that infection occurs. The disease itself can spread through close contact with respiratory discharges, such as through coughing, sneezing, or saliva. Meningitis is a worldwide disease, but N. meningitis is one of the main causes of a large-scale meningitis epidemic in sub-Saharan Africa, and this area of infection is called the meningitis belt. The reason why meningitis is such a risk to the community is that survivors of the disease can suffer from long-term learning difficulties, especially when contracted young, and the fatality rate can reach up to 10% even with hospital care. And when there's no treatment, it can be high as 70%, which is incredibly dangerous to newborns. Etiological factors are pre-existing infections, a crowded setting, seasonal occurrence. It's known that meningitis happens most frequently during the dry season, and smoking is also associated with meningitis. The first strategy for solving meningitis is vaccination. Vaccinations are available for the various bacterium and strains of meningitis. Preventative antibiotics can also be used for those in close contact with carriers. The second strategy is to modify behavior. It's important to avoid close contact with carriers. Smoking can increase the risk of meningitis, so it's important to avoid smoking whenever possible. And when avoidance is not possible, one should use masks. One of the historic successes to meningitis was in 2010 when the WHO qualified the MenAfri-Vac vaccine for use against meningitis infection in the meningitis belt in Africa. Today, through large-scale vaccination, the vaccine has dramatically reduced the cases of meningitis infection and death in sub-Saharan Africa. A cultural example is in Ireland, which had suffered from high rates of MenB, a type of bacterial meningitis, for decades. And it wasn't until December 2016 that a vaccine was made free for newborns, which was previously obtainable only privately at high cost. Most of the literature on meningitis focuses on vaccine as the major preventative measure. There is constant research being done on the various strains of bacterial meningitis that have yet to have a vaccine. The fact that not all patients survive meningitis infection, even with treatment, as well as the potential long-term effects, are what motivate this emphasis on vaccine in the literature. I agree with most of the literature saying that vaccine is very important and should be a focus. But in my opinion, I still think there should be more information, education, and focus put on how one should protect oneself from bacterial meningitis. This is because the available vaccines for meningitis don't cover all the strains, and any vaccination does not guarantee complete immunity.